Gary, nice to see you again.
Good to be here, man.
It's good to be here at your place, Gary. So we're in front of your pool, your delightful pool, at the back of your property here in Chiang Rai. An indelicate question maybe, have you been in for a dip today in the pool?
I went in last night.
Last night?
Yeah.
Is that a regular habit of yours?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Somebody's got to pick the leaves off the bottom.
But you've probably got a filter in there as well, I expect.
And if it's not 82 degrees, these guys won't go in.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
It's got to be perfect for them,
It's got to be the blood temperature nearly, yeah.
Those are the prima donnas in the household.
That's the ones.
So it seems like we're in a nice family environment here. You've got your dear lady wife with you and also her in-laws.
Yes.
And your property looks quite substantial. I mean, I haven't seen the exterior perimeter of it yet from here, but it seems to go quite some distance down there to the left of us.
Yeah.
So you've got quite a setup here, haven't you, I think, I'm right in saying?
It was designed that way.
Was it? And when was it designed like that? How long ago was that now?
2005, 6.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was a jungle vacant plot.
Really? Okay, so getting on 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was a sort of blank sheet of paper, although it wasn't really very blank. It was a jungle, you said at the time.
Well, it was a jungle, but the problem was building was cheap. The baht was 69 to the pound.
Oh, yeah.
And no building regulations, no planning, no budget. The starting point was really quite difficult.
Yeah.
And I had ideas.
Yes.
But I discovered quite quickly after living here that when the foreigners come, they are fixated on what they want. If they come from Norway, they want a big fireplace and they build a Norwegian, their perfect Norwegian house.
They want a Norwegian pine house, probably, don't they?
Yeah, probably that. That wouldn't last long here. I didn't do that. I planned it from a needs point of view, ergonomics.
Yeah.
And looks on paper, but the whole point was to be able to walk around the property.
Yes.
So it started like that.
Yes.
And it developed. I wanted sight lines. I wanted to see the whole property from wherever I was.
Yes.
A bit like in an orchard, where as you travel past the orchard, these vista lines open up. Yeah. And it was built like that.
Yeah. And did you leave any? Because I'm looking down towards very thick vegetation down there. I think I can see. Is that what's the name of that red flowering bush? You see a lot of them in the south of France.
That's 70 years old.
Is that what do they call those again? Those red flowering ones?
I'd have to ask my wife.
Okay, yeah, but I think
it's. I'm more of a hard gardener type.
Okay.
Fill the plants in.
What I was wondering is if any of the original jungle, you called it, is still in the garden, or you took everything out and started from scratch.
Pretty well. I had a problem because the family were desperate to help me.
Oh yeah.
So they came down from the hills.
Yeah.
And I would say, mark all the things that I wanted.
Yes.
And the things that I didn't want.
Yes.
So I said chop, 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 which
means want, is it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Cut it down.
I thought you were using the Thai word chop.
No, I didn't know any Thai.
Which means want.
So basically I ended up with everything I wanted chopped down, kept, and everything else. Okay. Because in the Thai it was chop means I like.
Yeah, I want,
Yeah. So I was going around saying chop, chop, chop.
Oh, okay, so it was Thai. They thought it was Thai, but it wasn't. Okay.
Totally reverse.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So they didn't cut down as much as you wanted, is that what you're saying?
So basically we ended up by clearing the whole thing.
Okay.
And that was pretty well it, because they'd cut down everything that I wanted, and what was left had to be cut down.
Yes.
We cut the site. It was an adventure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Some little things didn't quite work out. One funny thing, the blue tiles were going down.
Yes.
And it was in the open above the the end of the house,
Yeah.
and it was all girls working pretty well.
Yes.
More girls. There was 12 girls and about six men.
Yeah.
And I said, I'd like to see some grouting in here before it gets dark. Dan and I went off, my wife and I went off to get whatever it was, 100 things we had to get, and came back. And in my blue tiles, instead of having the cream grouting, which I'd put on one side,
Yeah.
I ended up with orange.
Well, that's unusual, I suppose. Yeah.
They thought that I was the first falang that ever had taste. Because si som in Thai is colour orange.
Yes. Yes.
So when I said I'd like to see some grouting,
Oh, I see. Okay.
they
Okay.
thought I want orange grouting.
I see.
Si som.
Yeah, I think from what you just said is a considerable amount was lost in translation. I think it's fair to say.
It happened quite a lot like that.
Yeah. But it's almost 20 years ago now. And how big was it? Do you know how big the piece of land was that you started with here?
It looks large, but it's less than one rye.
Really? And a rye is how much again? Do you know?
I don't know.
Anyway, it's quite a lot, I think, isn't it?
It's more expensive than it used to be.
Well, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And you said the pound was at an exchange rate of how much?
69,
And do you know what it is right now?
44 and a half.
So it's almost
44.3.
So you were getting almost twice as many baht for your pound as you are now.
There's a whole swimming pool,
Yes. Oh, I see. So that was your
at least.
that was your little present to yourself at the end
No,
of that.
no, I
was
had
it?
no idea. I bought
Okay.
a slum in Leamington, 2-bedroom slum,
Okay.
rented it, sold it 8 years later,
Yes.
and the money that I made on it,
Yes.
I dutifully spent on this.
So you sold a little slum in England and bought yourself a very, very impressive property here, if I may say,
Very happy with it.
with a beautiful pool in the middle and various features. Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
would say you've done quite well with your Leamington investment, I would say.
It was more than I
Yes,
dreamed of, but
yes,
I just wanted to get on with it.
yeah,
Most people prevaricate. I just prevaricated enough.
yeah,
But funny thing is that the houses that I built myself
yeah.
took 9 years each one
You're talking about the UK now,
in
are
the
you?
UK.
What? 9 years to build a
9
house?
years. That's how long. I built them myself bit by bit.
Okay,
This took 9 man years. When I divided the people up,
oh, I
that
see, yeah,
worked on
okay,
it,
yes, yeah.
it ended up 9 years. So that's,
But I mean, labour as it is here, of course, slightly different proposition, yeah.
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 The one thing I didn't make provision for was a bike.
A bike. So you built the garage on later, or what happened there?
No, the garage was there for a car,
Oh, I see, for the car, yeah.
and it's now got motorbike in it, which isn't constant, but yeah. So that was, I sold a Harley in England, sold up and thought no more bikes.
Okay, so let's go back to England for a second then, because so this project here, or this property, your home here, was almost 20 years old now.
Yeah,
When you built this on the what used to be jungle land, and before that you had the property in Leamington Spa, which is what you used to finance this venture.
yep.
And before that, you'd been presumably been living in the UK, most if not all of your life.
Yeah, always in the UK.
Yeah, and you were biking already. You had a Harley there, you said.
I did, but my biking career started quite early,
Okay,
when I was 14.
okay. Well, that's quite.
I'm not a
quite early.
biker, by the
Yeah.
way.
Sorry,
I'm not a biker per se.
not a biker
I
per
just
se.
love the machinery, and I was dragging the canal in Leamington, and I pulled out a First World War parachuters corgi bike, one of those ones you fold up,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it was covered in slime and mud and everything. I was no good at academically. I virtually gave up at school,
Yes.
but I cleaned this bike up and I made it work.
Yeah.
And I used to ride it up the canal bank,
Yes.
because that's the old towpath for the horses.
Oh yeah.
And I had that for years and years, and then I bought an old Austin 7 that had a tree growing through it for £5, and I must have been 16 then.
Yeah.
It took me a year to get it together,
Yeah.
and I stitched the upholstery, and I did the engine, and I shaved the shells on the crankshaft and did all that.
Yeah.
And then I ran that until somebody ran into me, because they didn't realise it would go so fast.
Oh, yeah.
I made it go, so
Oh, I see. Yeah.
so they just pulled out, and that was finished. And I ended up giving it to somebody to rebuild.
Yes.
And then my second motorbike was in 1968, was a folding Honda monkey bike.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful little thing.
So you went from a First World War folding
Yep.
bike to what at the time was the latest technology, I
Yeah,
suppose.
it's a little 50cc.
Little folding monkey bike.
Yeah, and I got
yeah.
it because I had a dog the same as my dog now,
Yeah.
and I needed to catch him sometimes, and that was
Yeah.
an excuse to buy it.
Yeah.
And rode it on the beach, take the dog on the beach, and have really good fun with it.
Yeah.
And then I took the engine out and put in a 70 in place of the 50.
Yeah.
And then I found a Honda 90 fitted on the same
Okay.
brackets.
Yeah.
So I bought it and stroked it, and the thing would outperform a Mini at any day. And then my family
Yeah.
decided it would ride in well in the sea, and it didn't. And it was left,
Okay.
after being dragged out of the sea,
Yeah.
it was left for a year
Yeah.
and then returned to me.
Okay.
It didn't really work.
No, it wouldn't, would it?
And then 20 years went by, from 68, and I saw a bike for sale. It was a black Harley Davidson, and it got sold to Dave.
I didn't catch that. What did it say?
Sold to Dave.
Sold to Dave.
And I thought, I went in the shop and I said, what do I have to do to have sold to Gary written on one of these? And he said, pay me a deposit and wait 6 months. So I
Okay.
said, how much do you want? So he told me it's £1,000. And I waited. And I'd suffered a health problem at that time. It was ME, it was yuppie flu, where
Yeah.
you just woke up sometimes, you couldn't move.
Yeah.
And it happened to me, and I was watching a film, and it ended, and the news came on, and it was Che Blythe talking about the hardest yacht race in the world,
Yes.
the first time ever sailing against the wind around the world.
Yes.
So in the morning I phoned my secretary up and I said, can you get me a entrance form, and I want to enter this yacht race.
Okay. When was this exactly? This is
88.
1988.
Just after, it's the same time I ordered the Harley,
Okay.
1988. So I had a biker friend then, but I haven't got delivery of my Harley yet.
Yeah.
And I was in my coffee shop with my biker friend, and my wife stormed in with the bank statement saying, what is this? £1,000. And I said, oh, realising that I'd used her checkbook,
Oh, okay.
I said, I've ordered a motorbike, and she said, you're not having one.
Oh.
This was my ex-wife.
Well, yes, I was wondering, is there a connection there somewhere?
And then she stormed off, and she came back and slammed the statement on the table,
Yes.
pointed to £150,
Yes.
and she said to my friend, he's having an affair. And friend said, why? There's £150. What's that for? And I said, actually, I would have told you that I've just booked to sail around the world.
You weren't actually with
In
Knox Johnson, were you?
4 years' time.
Okay.
So the bike was put on in mothballs and I went and
Yes.
sailed off.
Okay.
And I came back, got divorced on the way, did my settlement in Tasmania on the telephone, and then returned to my Harley.
You were talking about around the world race, was it? You were still married to your wife, who wasn't very happy about you buying the Harley Davidson with her checkbook.
She wasn't happy,
No.
and to be fair, I wasn't being fair to her.
Yeah.
I had an affair, not just with the Harley, put it that way,
You did have one then.
and I seemed to have camp followers as well. And when I asked my friend, who was my acupuncturist,
Yes.
why they like me, she said, you have such great toys.
Oh, yeah.
I had motorbike, yacht, drive-on mowers, old cars, all these toys.
Yes.
So anyway, it was coming time to push off,
Yes.
and I decided that I should invite my wife, because I thought there was going to be my wife and 3 others converging at the dock, and somebody would probably get hurt.
Oh, I see, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I gently told her everything seemed fine, and she divorced me the next day, basically.
Okay, but you said that all happened, all wrapped up in Tasmania?
I then set off
Okay.
the yacht race that I was signed on for, which,
Yes.
when I signed on for it, I was difficult to walk. I was really at a low ebb.
Yeah.
And I dedicated myself half of my day to the business and half of the day to me.
Yeah.
So I would get up at noon
Yeah.
and go to work, and the rest of the time I would be resting, because that's what I didn't do. I worked frantically hard. And anyway, I went to I signed on from the race.
Yes.
I went to the gym. I got trained.
Got fit.
Went on sailing
Yeah.
things, and then I sailed off from Southampton in September, which was then was made against my wishes. The engineer and the watch captain on a 20-metre, and so half the crew was mine. That was 7 people.
So was there 7 crew altogether, or?
No, 12.
12, okay. And
But,
7 of those were your
But
responsibility?
the skipper took the other half, and so I was then watch captain of something I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be a manager. I didn't want people. I didn't want engines. Just let me sit on a winch and wind. But I couldn't help myself. I ended up by trying to take over the job, and we sailed from Southampton to Rio de Janeiro.
Okay.
And the bit I missed is I went into receivership a month before. And it's very bad optics when you've gone broke. You've got £27 in the bank and a Harley, and you sail to Rio. Bad optics.
And did you have any pocket money in your pocket when you got there, or was that not part of the problem?
In fact, what happened, I took pictures. I had a little camera, cost me £3.95, and I took pictures of everybody doing everything. And when we got to the first port, I got behind the bar and started taking pictures of people at the bar doing whatever they did. And the other thing was that the boat performed very well out from Southampton, and the boat that got the first mark got £4,000. So that was split amongst the crew.
Okay.
So I then had pocket money. The rest of it was people gave me a bit of money. I'd open an envelope and it'd be there. My mum gave me £50, and I opened it and went out for the best steak meal and blew the lot.
Yeah. Of course, that was a lot more money in those days, of course. All this money we talk about, like the 1,000 for the Harley, that was a lot. In today's money, that would be a lot more than £1,000, of course.
Yeah. And then sailed from Rio out round Cape Horn the wrong way and up to Tasmania. And I was my friend sent me a message, and I was a bit down, and the captain said, he said, "What's wrong with you? You seem a bit down today." And I said, showed him the telex, and I said, "My wife has just sent me a bill for £120 because that's what it costs to crush your 1938 Daimler."
Oh no!
So
to crush it, did you say? To crush it, so she'd taken it to the breaker's yard or something. Is that what you mean?
She was she was upset, you know.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a friend, again one of the camp followers, who flew out to Tasmania. As she dropped in, she was just passing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And she was handling some legal stuff for me. And I think we've all seen Fatal Attraction. Yeah. And so she ended up by communicating with my wife, and I did my settlement for my divorce in a telephone box on Zion Beach in Tasmania.
Okay.
Yeah. Lit by the clips on a 12-volt battery that lit this little light in in this thing, and that's how I finished that. I then joined the crew again after repairing the boat, sailed from it was a 2-week stop, sailed to South Africa, and then South Africa home, and that little adventure was then over. That was as my friend wrote to me, much lost but much to be gained. Yeah, because I'd left a pretty good life really, and ended up by joining in a 2 meter by 1 meter bunk cabin with somebody I never knew.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was, everybody should do that bit. Yeah.
Maybe.
And I then sailed out the Atlantic on my little boat, which I bought off my wife in the divorce, and after the divorce actually, and because she didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And then I came back and worked for 10 years. I was then 50.
Okay.
So I worked for 10 years as an odd job man in London.
Until you were 60.
I was 60 when I finished. I was 50 then. I worked for 10 years.
Okay. So when you were 50 odd, you started you called it odd job business.
Yes.
In the UK, and you did that for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And by the end of that 10 years, you had your little, what you described as a slum in Leamington Spa.
Yeah.
And you'd obviously got some cash together from your 10 years of self-employment, of odd jobbing. And at that point, you decided, well, that's when you came to Thailand about 18 years ago, when you actually built this big pile of yours here.
I came before I'd finished work. I was 56.
Yes, to visit.
I'd worked for 10 years with a pretty strict business plan.
Yes.
Which I'll show you. Don't be employed.
Yes.
Don't employ anybody.
Yeah.
No job should last more than a week. And if it doesn't fit in my Clio, don't do it.
Okay.
And the final one was deploy your income.
What was the last one?
Deploy it. Make it work.
Okay. Yes.
My friends were all down the pub.
Yeah. But you stuck to it.
And even
Yeah.
if I sailed somebody's boat, that was my work. If I
Yes.
drove their car, if I was a chauffeur, I had
Yes.
6 weeks in the summer sailing a lady's boat for her.
Yeah.
I delivered E-types, I delivered yachts, I did anything day and night. I worked a lot,
Yes. Yeah.
and for seed money, and I bought the nastiest little one-bedroom flats that you could buy,
Yeah.
that nobody wanted.
Yes.
The first one, a big dog had died in it,
Oh no.
and you only had to open the
Door. You
door
realise
to
that.
find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course that went very cheap.
Yeah.
So I ended up with a couple of prefabs in Hampshire, and 4 or 5, 6 properties up in Leamington,
Yes.
all very poor
Yes.
condition.
Yes.
But during that 10 years I lived in them
Yes.
and did them up.
Yes.
Tax benefit was amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, and then a friend of mine one day, it was my birthday, gave me a book which was The World in 365 Days.
Oh yeah.
And I said, I'm going to split this open, the cellophane, and where it falls open, I will go.
Okay.
And it was the seaweed fields on Lombongan Island off Bali. So
Okay.
I picked the phone up, I phoned the agent, and I said, send me to Bali. Found that I had to come land in
Bangkok on the way. Yeah.
But being somebody that was worn out by girls by that time, I didn't want anything to do with Bangkok, and I didn't want anything to do with the sea, because I just ended up working on a boat, climbing the mast, showing them how to do something.
Yeah.
So I said, get me as far as you can from the sea.
Yeah.
She said, do a trip in Thailand, and as far as you can get from the sea is about here.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And I did a trip to across the border and went on the way to Chiang Mai to go to Bali.
Yeah.
I met a girl, an artist, and gave her some money for letting a bird fly free, and she wrote to me, and through her I met my wife.
Okay.
I never had a relationship with anybody really, and I met my wife and via a friend, which was odd. I thought it was odd because she didn't have a boyfriend, and I was in the meal for 20 minutes and I said, will you marry me? So she said, I have to make a telephone call.
Okay.
So she made a telephone call and came back and said yes.
Okay. So this all happened very quickly, about 18 years ago now.
Yeah, 17 years ago we actually got married. That was 18
Yes.
years ago.
Yeah.
I came over, I bought the little wooden house at the end of the garden there.
Yes.
We lived on that.
Yes.
Went to England. A friend of mine said to Van, who was signed up for a passport, said, he asked me, where do you want to live, here or there? I said, I just want to live wherever Ban's living.
Okay.
And she said, he said, where do you want to live, Ban? He said, in Thailand. So I said, there's your answer. Forget about that. And she couldn't stand another winter. So we just came over that year, end of 2006.
Yes.
And then went back to England, got married in England,
Okay.
2007.
And you've been here ever since?
Yep. But I'd sold my Harley,
Yeah.
and I sold my collection of cars, bike, everything,
Yes.
gone. I could have bought here, but I didn't know that at the time.
Okay.
And I didn't need another bike. But a friend let me ride his Indian.
Oh yeah.
No helmet. And I took off, throbbing off on that thing, and I thought, oh my God. I'm going to England a week or so later, and I called into the Indian showroom and they got no Scouts. That's what I was going to get. But he gave me a brochure, and on there was the Indian chief.
Oh yeah.
So when I went to England, I made a joke saying, "This is, look what I bought." To which they said, "Yeah, trust you." And by the time I came back, I talked myself into it. Went down to it's another one. I was with a friend in England,
Yes.
and I fell and damaged myself very badly.
Yes.
I couldn't walk properly, couldn't hold anything. Ended up in the showroom of the Indian, where the guy said, "We haven't got any Scouts, we've got this." My wife said, "It's beautiful, can we have it?" And I said, "Yes." The guy took me seriously. I was somebody, I couldn't even hold a coffee cup. He said, "You're going to ride it? Do you want to take for a test?" I couldn't even bend my leg to go over it. They helped me down the steps to the cash machine where I took the deposit out, and 2 months later it was delivered.
So when was that again? When did you get the Indian?
2015.
So you've had that bike about 8 years now, and we're getting on. Is it
It was 2015. I think it came 2016. It came. Yeah.
Okay. I know it's a brand new bike from them.
Brand new bike.
And what sort of biking do you do on that now? I know we saw you earlier on. We've got a nice little clip of you with the Hound on the front. That's on your little Honda Click.
Honda Click, yeah.
And he likes the Honda Click and you prefer the Indian. That's the motto, isn't it?
You know, I've got to follow in with some things.
So you do, obviously, I've seen you out and about town. We meet up at the Irish pub sometimes and you arrive on your Honda Click, and sometimes with and sometimes without the dog. But when you're using the Indian, what sort of trips do you do with that? So yeah, that's a perfect sort of relaxed cruiser, isn't it? I think you mentioned the other day to me, you normally like to keep the speed down to about 90, 100, less than 100 Ks.
80, 90.
80 to 90,
and if it's
that's 50, 60 miles an hour, yeah.
Particularly good road, because it's not, the roads aren't built for the speed, and people do stupid things.
Yes, yes,
and
that's true.
And all the incidents which I've had have been through people being stupid.
Yes.
On the road.
And it's obviously a very big bike. I expect it's, as an American bike, it's probably got its capacity measured in cubic inches, but what's it in cubic centimetres?
1880.
1880?
Yeah.
That's almost a 2-litre motor.
But dry, it's over 400 kilos.
That's a heavy bike, isn't it?
So,
what is it, 2-cylinder? How many cylinders has it got?
I don't know. I reckon it's with Ban and I on it, and full of petrol and the panniers and everything. It's a heavy machine.
That must be, as you just said, with the two of you on it and the weight of the bike itself, we're probably talking about 400 kilos, close on half a ton.
It weighs 400 kilos dry.
It weighs 400 dry. So with the two of you on it, we are talking more than half a ton, aren't we?
Yeah.
Closer to a ton, maybe, even. Yeah. Anyway, Gary, it's been great pleasure catching up with you and talking. And in this wonderful setting. I mean, normally I'm in my front room with, rather modern antiseptic surroundings, and you're in a very nice natural environment here with the pool behind you. And I can hear the chickens crowing in the background, and very nice, very nice indeed, yes. So thank you again.
No, it's been a pleasure
for sharing those
reminiscing memories as well.
Yes, it was enjoyable. It was fun.
Yeah.
And let's catch up again soon, huh?
I hope so.
All right, thanks, Gary. Cheers.